Explaining the first month of the NBA in 11 minutes, roughly. I know many people have been watching the NFL season as it's starting to heat up. That goes the same with college football, and many people haven't had time to tune into the NBA season, but I'm here for you. The NBA season this far has been very entertaining through 15 games of the 2023 NBA season. There are 7 players averaging 30 plus and 20 teams averaging over 110 points per game. The reason for this increased scoring has happened for many reasons. A main contributor to this is the new take foul rule, allowing more teams to get in transition and score fast breaks instead of taking a side out. Now I want to start this video talking about teams, the surprising ones, the good ones, the disappointing ones, and then I want to end this video with the first month awards. To me, through the first 15 games of the NBA season, there are 2 teams that are head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. Starting off with the Milwaukee Bucks. They've looked amazing while missing key players like Chris Middleton, Pat Connaughton, and Joe Ingles. Without those pieces, many players on the Bucks have been able to step up. But even with many of those people putting in huge work, this team would be nowhere without Giannis Antetokounmpo. If you want to see this video that I made a few weeks ago talking about he's on track to win his 3rd MVP, click in the top right corner. I don't want to spend too much time on them, so I'm going to go to the second team that's just miles ahead of everybody, and that's the Boston Celtics. Now coming into the season, we had questions how would they bounce back after coming from a finals loss against the Warriors. And so far they've responded to that finals loss very well, rattling off 8 straight wins. And the main reason that is their offense is amazing. Jason Tatum is a top 5 player in the league. I don't even think that's up for debate. He's probably top 3 in MVP, but I'll get more on that later. Jaylen Brown has also stepped up in a huge way. If there's one area that this team lacks, it's on the defensive end, but that happens when you don't have Rob Williams. Coach Mazzulla, taking the spot of Ime Udoka, has done an amazing job of getting this team on the right track, and hopefully if they keep on the pace for the rest of the season, they could be the NBA champions. The Clippers to me have been very disappointing. Coming into the season, if you go look at my preseason predictions, I had them probably winning the championship. I said they're the most well-rounded, their offense and defense, they could switch everything, but coming in, they haven't been that good. Kawhi has been very underwhelming, missing a majority of the games so far. Coming into the season, many people thought he would be healthy to play, but it's just been load management after load management. This makes it hard for the Clippers to build any consistency. Speaking of consistency, Paul George. One game he could have 30, the next game he'll have 15. He just needs a few weeks where he's solid. He did have a 3-game stretch where he was averaging like 30, but then he was right back to his inconsistent ways. And although this team is sitting at a record of 9-7, I'm sure many people had higher expectations for them coming into the NBA season. Moving on to the Cavaliers, I don't want to say surprise because many people thought they would be good, but I don't think people thought they would be this good. For a while they were the 2nd team in the East before losing multiple games in a row. Darius Garland got hurt, but that didn't slow them down. Donovan Mitchell is playing like an MVP candidate, and Kevin Love coming off the bench is playing like a 6th Man of the Year candidate. By the end of the season, they could have 2 award winners on the team, along with 2 Twin Towers protecting the paint at all times, and Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Although this team has had a slide recently, I'm sure they'll bounce back. Now to the Nets. I don't want to spend too much time on this because you could turn on the TV or watch any YouTube video about the Nets and you'll have a whole spiel on it. But Steve Nash getting fired seemed kind of fair and kind of unfair to me. Steve Nash was basically thrown into the fire with one of the most controversial teams in recent times. With the Kyrie Irving stuff and the Kevin Durant trade, even Ben Simmons drama. It was just an unfair challenge for him. I don't know if he'll go into coaching again because this was just such a bad for his legacy. If he ever does, I think he'll go back to like a shooting coach or whatever he did with the Warriors, consultant, or maybe even assistant coach and work his way back up. Now this next team, the Utah Jazz, I know nobody saw it was going to be a good team. They come out and they've just shocked the world, having 10 wins, and at one point they were the top in the Western Conference. The way that they beat teams, they spread out and shoot, and they have a bunch of guys that can take you off the dribble. Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson have been amazing for this team. Even though Colin Sexton isn't like a huge contributor, minutes-wise, you can feel the impact when he's on the court. Also down the stretch, they're one of the clutchest offenses of the league. Lauri Markkanen is probably going to be an all-star this year. Unless they have a drastic drop-off, I don't think they would deny a hometown kid from getting into the all-star game, seeing that it is in Utah this year. My last disappointing team is the Miami Heat. For years now, people have been wondering when this team's going to make a big move, or are they going to make it over the top. They haven't really been that team since the 2020 bubble, and this year it finally seems like their time is up or their window's closed. Many years this Miami team has been built on defense, but this year the defense isn't there. They just sit back in zone a bunch, and it makes you wonder, why are they sitting back in zone? It's mainly because Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry aren't the best defenders. And it's strange saying Kyle Lowry isn't a good defender, but he just really hasn't been that good. And also this team just can't stay healthy, and a non-healthy team that doesn't have a bench, that's just a horrible combination. Like I think tonight they only played like 7 people because Bam was out and a whole bunch of the starters. But I think a main problem with this team is they just don't fit what the current NBA is. They look like they shoot a lot of twos. I mean, they have Duncan Robinson, he doesn't play. Tyler Hero is a great addition. Even Max Strus, but your best player is Jimmy Butler, who doesn't really shoot threes, so it's hard for them to be taken as real legit contenders. And my last good team, I know there's a bunch of teams, but it's the Grizzlies. Desmond Bane and John Morant, I think they've taken the title as best backcourt. I know you have like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, as I mentioned, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I mean, you can even throw Steph and Clay in there, even though it's mostly Steph, but I think they've finally taken that mantle. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is back. I mean, this team, I thought they were going to have a drop-off, maybe even be in that 6, 7, 8 range, but no, they're a top 3 seed still. I mean, the Grizzlies scouting department is just amazing. They've had players out there that I haven't heard of, and they're putting up productive minutes on the court. The sad news is, as I'm recording this, Desmond Bane just got hurt, and then John Morant got hurt. So hopefully those guys will be back. I don't know how long the Desmond Bane one is. It might be 3 weeks if I remember correctly. But when they come back, this team will be a serious contender in the West. Now, the last team I'm going to talk about in depth, I didn't know if I want to put them in the good or the disappointing because they're kind of in the middle. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves. Early in the season, everybody thought this was going to work. Now in the midpoint in the season, they were kind of bad. And now the last 3 or 4 games, they're back to decent again. So, like, it's hard to tell. One of the main problems is Rudy Gobert is guarding the 5s, which means Cat has to guard the 4. Again, I hate plugging this, but if you go back and look at the predictions, I said Cat wouldn't be able to guard the 4s, and so far that's stood true. Also, Anthony Edwards kind of has the Paul George problem, where one night he'll go for 30, the next he'll go for like 16. It's really hard because people thought he would take that MIP player kind of jump, but so far he hasn't really taken that. And he also doesn't pass to Rudy Gobert. It's like basically the same thing as Donovan Mitchell. If I can find the stat, like he just doesn't pass to on pick and rolls. And this kind of hurts them because this was an all-in move. They traded draft picks, they traded players. So if this Rudy Gobert thing doesn't work out, it's kind of hard to see where the Timberwolves will go for the next few years. Obviously, they have trade pieces if it gets that desperate. They can move Cat. They probably wouldn't move Anthony Edwards. If I was the Timberwolves, I would definitely keep Anthony Edwards over Cat. But we'll see how this team plays out in the next few weeks. Really fast round, I'll go through my surprise teams. The Pacers, Kings, and Wizards, they're all teams that people thought would be lower in the standings, and they've just risen up, especially the Kings. This far in the season, they have the best record in California, being the Warriors, Lakers, and Clippers, which is amazing. And they even got that beam, which kind of revitalized the organization. It's kind of weird, I don't know how to explain it. Before I get to the awards, I want to shout out some people that could be first-time All-Stars. Lauri Markkanen of the Utah Jazz I already mentioned. Kristaps Porzingis has taken a lot of the load off of Bradley Beal, so I could see him getting consideration. Jalen Brunson, if the production of the Knicks or the record-wise gets better for the Knicks, I can see him slipping in there. Tyrese Halliburton, I don't know how he doesn't make it. He's leading the league in assists, so he'll be an easy one. And De'Aaron Fox, even though that West is very, very tough to get into. Lastly, onto the awards. The MVP race, really it's only 3 people. It's Giannis, Luka, and Tatum. And so far, I'm still on the Giannis train, even though Luka's numbers are becoming undeniable. Like, how can you not look at him? And Jason Tatum, I think I saw maybe a report or something that said he's the most complete player in the league. And so far, I think you have to agree with that. He basically has everything you want in a star player. Coach of the Year, I have 3 contenders. I'm going to have to go with Will Hardy just because of how much the Jazz have defied expectations. I mean, people thought they would be tanking. People didn't even think they would get 10 wins this year. So for them to have 11 this far, it's amazing. Next, I would have Coach Mazzulla for the Celtics. Like I said, first-year coach coming in and having one of the best teams in the league. And then Chauncey Billups of the Trailblazers. Another team that people thought would be in the play-in, but is actually at the top of their conference. He has the team playing like one unit and spreading the load, making sure Dame doesn't have to do it all every single night. Now, Defensive Player of the Year, it's really hard to judge because you need a full season or you need a good plot of games, but I think I have it down to 2. OG Anunoby. He's like 3rd in deflections and 2nd in steals at the time of recording this. It might be a little different now. And then Giannis, he's just everywhere on the court. He basically defends 3, 4, 5. He can even guard 1s and 2, even though he doesn't have that because he has the best perimeter defender in Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez. So his numbers are going to look amazing just because of the defensive team that's around him. Sixth man of the year, as a homer pick, I want to pick Ben Mathurin, but it has to be Kevin Love. He's just putting up amazing numbers. He substitutes perfectly for that team, and a team that's at the top of the conference. I feel like usually the better teams will have the sixth man of the year because I don't know if this Pacers record will sustain through the whole season. Next is Paolo Banchero for Rookie of the Year. Again, this hurts me not to put Ben Mathurin, but Paolo just looks like a grown man already. He looks like he's a veteran in this league, just putting up amazing numbers, multiple 30-point games, and even though the Magic haven't been good, he's been a bright spot for the future. I mean, to be honest, a lot of players have shown bright spots for the future on the Magic. It's just their team isn't that well constructed. Now to most improved, I feel like only one person has really taken this award away, and it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA out of Oklahoma City. Just putting up amazing numbers. I mean, is he top 5 in the league? To me, he's top 5. I don't know how you can say he's not. Top 5 in the NBA would be Luka, Steph, Tatum, Giannis, and I feel like you had to put SGA in that spot at this point in the season. I don't know if he can sustain it, but right now he's playing at an amazing level. Again, this is a team that people thought would be tanking, but SGA is just too good, and if they can have Giddey put it together, they have Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort if he can play at the next level, this team's going to be very good for years to come. And runner-up, it pains me again, third award in a row, I have an Indiana Pacer, Tyrese Halliburton, just amazing. I've already basically mentioned his stat, leading the league in assists, higher production. He's been amazing this season for the Pacers.